Oh man, that was sweet. That's SNN. That's Street News Now. It is Five Guys and You. Catch us every Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, and 6 p.m. on the West Coast. It is the Boomshockalaka. But we've been trying to hold it down. I think we're doing a decent job. Where our fearless leader, Lee Michaels, on assignment, G5 classified. But through the magic and power of technology, bam, he's here.
Boom.
There he is right there, along, of course, with Dr.Ron Ford. So here we go. So we have not seen our fearless leader in a few weeks. Road Dog Lee, as you have your moniker down there. Give us an update on how you doing, man.
I'm doing all right, guys. Good to see you. Good to be seen. I'm doing great. I'm on a extended project down here in uh, Laguna Beach. A client came in from Qatar, a family or a group of 10, family of 6, and it's like moving a herd of cattle around. It's it's a challenge, but it's been cool. But it's a 30-day project, and it's supposed to be over Tuesday. But you never know because these guys got so much money, they might take another 30 days off.
Oh man,
But I won't be here.
it'll be somebody else.
Somebody else, right?
Right,
I'll be back in hot ass Vegas or somewhere,
right.
but
Oh
not
hell,
here. Hey, it's beautiful down here, Laguna Beach. It's north of San Diego, south of LA, right on the Pacific Coast Highway. It's sunshine, blue skies, you know, people hanging out at the beach, and it's really nice. Really, really pretty area.
now I know you love giving the weather forecast. So what is the temperature out there, Laguna Beach?
Sunshine, blue skies, and 77 degrees.
That's sweet.
Yeah, man. It
I like
hasn't
that.
been over 85, and that was just like at the peak of the day around 3 o'clock. But it cools down in the evening, and it's really nice. I'm hearing myself come back. Why is that?
Oh, I
Why
don't
is
know.
that? Let me check my audio settings here. Yeah, I got the cancellation on. Why that is? Oh, wait a minute. Let me put it on my AirPods.
Oh,
Maybe
okay.
that'll kill it.
So it's the three of us now. Let me bring in the fourth person who's been waving feverishly in the background here. The chocolate Yoda, Francisco Acosta. Francisco, how you doing, brother?
Hey, hey, another day in paradise. All good.
What's up, Skull Murphy?
Hey, hey, long time, man. We
Wait a
missed
minute,
you.
wait a minute. What'd you call him?
Skull Murphy.
Skull Murphy.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah,
I
they
was
got
just
the
going
the
to let
Chrome
that
Dome.
slide because I have no idea what the hell that is. But,
Yeah, me neither, but I feel like I need
Like
to know.
it's all of us a ball head. Chrome
ah,
Dome. Skull Murphy.
I see.
Oh, is that what that is?
Yeah,
All right. That's a
Okay.
club I earned admission to, so I'm okay with that.
that's right.
There you
That's
go.
right. Say it
There
loud.
you
Be
go.
proud.
That's right.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're
Well,
right.
as long as it ain't skullduggery, we're all good.
Well,
Oh,
it's always going to be some of that.
Well, okay,
yeah.
that's true too. Okay.
Right.
Oh
Yeah.
man, well, Road Dog Lee, good to see you, man. Anything we get off your chest? You haven't been here in a while, so it's your platform, it's your stuff. You let's speak.
Well, all I can say is, why enough is the media still carrying any kind of damn coverage on Donald Trump? I want to know why. Why is he relevant? Is it because the Republican Party is so irrelevant that that's the best that they've got? Really? This guy ought to be on his way to jail, and people are talking about he's going to run again. He's going to run. I hope the dog catchers are running behind him. I mean, yeah, see, you got me fired up, lit and ready to go. But yeah, I want to know why is any media still talking about this guy? Why isn't he in court and being charged with all kind of felonies, all kind of misdemeanors, all kind of criminal cases? Because that's what he is. He's a criminal. And
Right.
anybody that thinks that this guy is okay, you're a criminal. You got a problem. You're sick, twisted, and demented. For
Well,
real. I mean,
the
really.
fact that he's on television now and not in jail yet, those things aren't necessarily mutually exclusive because, unfortunately, TV is immediate, right? Social media is immediate, but justice is slow, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
remember, they just arrested his chief financial officer.
Right. Right.
So the government has literally all the time in the world to build a case, and they've built it. They know that they have him dead to rights. That's why they started moving forward. But that's going to take a while. That process is going to take some time, and I hope to see him do the perp walk eventually. That's my hope, that I'll live long enough to see him in the orange jumper or something like that.
Yeah.
Well,
No,
you're getting close when the members of his close circle, they start eating lead. They just all of a sudden, one by one, jumping out of windows, swallowing lead, things of that nature.
Well,
Because they're getting close, because then these guys will be like,
well,
dang,
none of that's happened so far, and I
not
doubt
yet.
that they
So
will.
they're not close enough yet.
Yeah, well, I
Yeah.
think, I mean, if we're going to learn the lessons of history and what happened to Al Capone, it was an accountant that brought down Al Capone. He was the guy that essentially invented forensic accounting. And so, when you get to the point, as it did with Al Capone's case, that the accountant is picked up, you're already so far along into the process, because that means that, remember, to bring an indictment, it means that a panel had to agree that there was enough evidence to move forward.
Right.
Okay, so it's all done except the actual thing. It's, this is how the government works. And again, we're talking about New York State specifically. They learned some very valuable lessons in the age of Robert Mueller and Don Gotti, John Gotti, the Teflon Don, right? And so remember, New York failed to convict Gotti twice in a row, and they had one last opportunity, and that's when they brought in Robert Mueller. And so the main thing that they learned is that you don't take one step toward indictment until you have all your ducks in a row. And so the fact that they've brought an indictment means that they have all their ducks in a row. And to answer your other question, Lee, about why is Trump getting so much media attention, it's the same thing that he got in 2015 and 2016. It's ratings. The Les Moonves of CBS said as much. He said, yeah, we cover him because it's good ratings. That's all they care about. They don't care about the good of the country or anything like that, or what's right, or what. They don't care. They just care about their ratings. So they're going to keep covering him because he keeps bringing ratings, unfortunately, but it's the truth.
No, you're right. And it's funny, real quick, let me jump in and say this real quick. Of course,
it is true. And that's really what it's all about.
No, you're right. I was just saying real quick, make sure everybody goes to
you guys.
Oh, I'm sorry. Make sure you go to our YouTube channel, to Street News Now. Make sure you subscribe, like, and share. And also you catch us on Facebook Live, also on YouTube, like I just said, Twitter, and Twitch. And I'm sorry, Lee just dropped off. My topic is about 45. It's funny that Lee mentioned we're talking about it right now. And the thing about it, and I agree wholeheartedly, Francisco, it's about the ratings. Think about the time he was in office. You can imagine the ratings boost that all the networks were getting, that everybody was getting because of who he was and how he comported himself. They got featured the sponsors who were buying time because they knew he was drawing in ratings. And so that's how he talked. He didn't say anything about a press conference or what was best for the nation. He talked about ratings because in his mind, he was still a so-called media star. So that's how he talked about ratings and things like that, moving the needle and stuff like that. So no, even though he's out of office, the cycle continues. He still is able to do that. So they're not going to, not give him the platform? No, of course, they're going to keep on rolling with it.
If it makes
Absolutely.
dollars, it makes sense, right?
That's right. Absolutely. So, Dr. Ron, so tell us what we have on the docket today.
I wanted to talk about that move that the Democrats made in Texas to not allow them to have enough people in the legislature to take that garbage to vote. That's what I'm going to talk about.
All right, there you go. And Chocolate Yoda, what's on your docket for today?
I decided this a few minutes ago. I'm going to talk about reality as a concept and how it pertains to the repugnant party.
A political show all the way around. And my topic, I just said, the question becomes, will 45 become 47? And then we'll get around to that later on. Dr. Ron, the floor is yours. Have at it, sir.
Okay. I was surfing the internet as quite often as I do, and I ran across this story from ABC News, and they were talking about the Texas Democrats who went all the way to Washington, D.C. to camp out to stop, to block the GOP sweeping election overhaul bill that makes it harder to vote in the state. A similar move successfully killed an earlier version of the bill on the last day of the legislation session in late May. The lawmakers are hoping for a repeat during the 30-day special session called by the state's Republican governor, Greg Abbott. So basically, what the Democrats did, they got on an airplane, bus, car, and they left. They went all the way to Washington, D.C., with the goal and the objective is not to have a quorum to be able to bring the bill to a vote. The minimum number of representatives who have to be present for the body to operate. Without a quorum, the legislature can't vote on the voting proposal or other GOP block bills on abortion, transgender athletes, and teaching about racism and U.S. history. And nothing will pass. It was a smart move. They've done it before. ABC was reporting that these types of things occurred in Texas in 2003. It also happened in other states. In 2019, GOP in Oregon left for Iowa, blocking the Democratic bill fighting climate change. Does this ever work? Not often. So according to the report, in 2003, Texas then Republican Governor Rick Perry called a special session. Democrats fled again, this time to New Mexico, but eventually came back and the redistricting then passed. Wisconsin Democrats were also unable to stop the GOP bill stripping public sector unions of collective bargaining rights. So this, tactic has been used time and time again to try and fight off what they don't agree with. And I admire them for making an attempt to try to stop this from happening. But once they're back in the state of Texas, and then they're going to be called back into session to address this issue. So unless the federal government steps forward, which was also addressed in this article on why they went to Washington, was to try and bring down the federal government to put some things into place which will allow the states to have to abide by fair voting rights. What's up, Dr. Katrina? So if the federal government puts in place fair voting rights laws, then what the states are trying to do now will have to be overturned, because they won't be able to pull off these shenanigans that they're trying to pull off. You know, we don't know if it's going to be successful, but everybody in Texas is not in agreement with it. So I know last week we talked about how the Department of Justice is going against the Georgia Unfair Voting Rights Act, or laws that they put in place. So Texas is also, the Democrats are standing up again to try and stop this from happening in Texas. And I believe other states will follow suit. But I'm almost sure that we're going to have to get the federal government involved on some level in order to be able to make this a universal fair voting right. And if we don't, then it's going to be repeatedly over and over and over again. You know, the Republicans trying not to lose elections from folks being able to cast their vote justly. So they've got a mission and a plan, and they're trying to stop votes by any means necessary. And it's almost forcing the hand of the federal government. They're going to have to do something, because if they don't, you know, then the Republicans are going, one by one, are going to begin to keep up these shenanigans to try and sway votes their way by blocking votes and not accepting votes, by hindering votes from being fairly cast. So I admire the Democrats for what they're trying to do. Will they be successful? Yet to be determined. But I'm encouraging them, keep up the good work. Don't just settle for it. You know, don't let it go down. You know, so I, for one, admire their effort. What about the rest of you guys?
Well, Dr. Ron, let me ask you a question. So, with the Democrats being camped out in Washington, as the story goes, and is this sincere on Democrats' part, or is it just dog and pony show?
Well, according to what I'm reading here, they are legitimately trying to stop this bill from being passed by not having enough people in the Capitol to be able to call a vote. Mm-hmm. So they're stopping the quorum. So will they be able to stay gone long enough until the special session is over with? That's another question. You know, but I think it benefits everybody in the state to have a fair voting right act, not, you know, hinder, you know, fair voting.
Mm.
Hey, Doc, can you get closer to the camera?
Well, he's got me like, you know, he won't put the other panels up there so we can.
We're all in the same panel. Why are you just back up, man? Anyway, in answer to your question,
stop, Francis. Before I let you go, how the hell you gonna put me under the bus like that, Doc?
Well,
you're the one up like this.
No, I'm not. This is where I'm in all the time.
Yeah, but okay, I'm sorry, because this now you pissed me off. Okay,
there you go. Now that's
Jesus
a lot better.
Christ.
That's a lot better. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Now, all Francisco.
Right, okay, Francisco, please go ahead.
Wow, how many hairs did I have up there, bro?
I'm already traumatized, you know. So in answer to your question, all of politics is a dog and pony show.
Yeah.
As George Carlin once said, that government is there to give you the illusion of choice. The fact is that America is run by businesses, and the politicians are already bought and paid for. However, they didn't have to board a plane to grandstand. You know, political grandstanding is easy. You get in front of a mic and you make these broad sweeping, announcements and blah, blah, blah. And then you go back to business as usual, which is spending 5 to 7 hours a day fundraising. Okay. So I think it is a sincere effort on the part of these lawmakers to try to save democracy. Because it's under siege right now, and again, I suppose it's fair for me to put the word democracy in quotes, because they're trying to preserve a vote that was never a real vote to begin with. But they're doing something to try to earn their ridiculously high salaries that they keep increasing themselves because they get to vote on their salary. But they didn't have to do any of this in order to make it seem like they were fighting the Republicans. But this is, I believe, a real fight. This is, what does it say? You started off by talking about how Republicans are basically trying to make it harder for people to vote. What does that say about your ideas in government when you're not doubling down on your platform? You're not trying to get a better message. You're not trying to figure out better laws to pass. You're trying to figure out how to stop people from voting. What does that say about you and your ideas and your reality?
Yeah.
Well, it says that you pretty much sell your immortal soul. So if you're an outsider become an insider, everything changes. It's like, going back to the original Wizard of Oz. You go from black and white to color. You go from Kansas to Oz. You got to comport yourself because now you're somewhere you've never been before. So how do you act? Do you act the same way you were before, or do you comport and try to change? That's usually what happens with politicians, and they usually know the game going into it because they know once they get in, they can, deal with these people that's going to support them and their bills, and everything, people coming towards them with money, and they throw money at them. Yeah, I'll support this bill. It even goes back to Blazing Saddles, Mel Brooks playing the governor. We got to protect our phony baloney jobs, gentlemen. So it's that type of thing when you're around people who do not have our best interest at heart and pretty much never did.
Interesting. By the way, it's very interesting to me that you referenced The Wizard of Oz, because the original book was an allegory about the monetary system in America.
Yes.
I won't get into all the details of it, but yeah, it's not some cute children's story.
No, it's not. Though there are many novels to that storyline. It's deep. It gets deep. But once again, it's based upon reality. It's based upon that type of reality where you fantasize and you make it into a story, but it's always based on some sort of realism. Yeah,
and the man behind the curtain was basically the reality of the monetary system, which, by the way, is, in my opinion, why President Abraham Lincoln was murdered. It has nothing to do with slaves, had nothing to do with the Civil War. What it had to do with is that he called out the Rothschilds, and they were the most powerful family in the world at the time, and he took us off the central bank. You know that old saying, for money, greenbacks? That was actually Lincoln's money, because it was only printed on the front, and on the back it was plain, so they called it greenbacks. But he successfully took the American economy off the central bank. And guess what happened to the American economy once he was murdered? It went right back onto the central bank, and then eventually that became the Fed in 1913.
Amazing. You connect the dots.
How do you know this stuff?
Reading is fundamental.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. You connect the dots, so you always follow the money trail and lead you to the road that answers
follow the yellow brick road.
There you go.
Right, exactly.
The yellow, by the way, is gold. In the story, the yellow was gold.
Right.
And green, emerald green was the money, the paper money. Anyway, we could speak for hours on that.
That's a whole different show, Doc. Yeah, that's
wait
great.
a minute. What did the Munchkins represent?
My favorite snack.
Okay. All right.
Doc. I'm sorry, Dr. Ron. Go continue, please.
No. That was it. I believe that the Democrats mean well by bringing attention, like you say, bandstanding, showboating. They had a press conference when they got all the way to DC to bring attention to what was going on and what was attempting to go on. So, whatever the outcome is, will be whenever this goes down the road, and winds up where it winds up at. I don't think that'll be a final conclusion of the matter. I think that there's still going to be a part 2, part 3, part 4. It's going to have to continue. So fair is fair, right is right, wrong is wrong, and somebody got to fight for it.
Well, Dr. Ron, from your assessment again, with the Democrats, they've always come off nationally as, well, for me, kind of weak, not really strong-minded. Not saying that they're not on the national front. I mean, you got the new crowd of Democrats that come over in the past few years. The younger ones see a little more fight and more gusto, but it's still like the old guard. If they hand over an olive branch to the Republicans would take a match and burn it. Do you think the Democratic Party has to get tougher?
I'm going to have to say yes, because, right now, the party lines are very, very divided, straight down the middle. As the professor would say, rep cons against the dem cons, and they seem to be holding party lines to a fault. And I think that if they were to begin to look across the aisle and see where we can put something together that makes sense, then they might be able to get back on base, because they're not working for the people that put them in. They are not. They all have an agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm going to take a different position on that. I think I get the cuteness of saying RepCon and DemCon, but I think it draws a false equivalency between the two parties. They're not the same. The two parties are not the same. And just so you know, I'm neither a Republican nor a Democrat. I'm an independent, because the whole Hatfield McCoy thing of politics bores the shit out of me. But the fact of the matter is, historically, if you look at the past 50 to 75 years, the Republican Party has been on the wrong side of history many times, and I'll talk about that later in my segment. But it's not the idea of bipartisanship is gone, and it's gone because the Republicans killed it. They are not interested in cooperation. They're not interested in governance. They're only interested in maintaining power. So the idea that somehow the Democrats need to reach across the aisle to compromise with these people, well, that's why Barack Obama failed to get a lot of his agenda through, is because he tried that. And Biden, I think, learned from that, and he announced early on that, hey, man, we're going to try to work with you, but if you don't, we're doing what we need to do, which is a departure from what his stance was when he first became VP in 2008. So I'm glad to see that. I'm glad to see that he realizes that these people can't be compromised with. There is no compromise. Their idea of compromise is, hey, you're drowning in 20 feet of water. Let me bring you up to 10 feet of water so you'll drown there. That's the Republican compromise these days. So yes, the Democrats do have to get tougher, but the problem is that they're too busy trying to make the world better to learn how to be disgusting like the Republicans are, because the Republicans are brilliant at messaging. That's their one strength, is that they are literally all on the same page. The memo goes out, I'm sure electronically at this point, and no matter what channel you watch, no matter what Republican is talking, they are literally speaking the same words, because they understand the power of consistent messaging, which is the basis of propaganda. So do the Democrats have to get good at that? Yes, but not in the same way. I'd like to see the Democrats just stand on what's right and what's true and move forward with that and leave these idiots in the dust where they belong.
Absolutely. And it makes all the sense in the world. And again, it's about optics. And look at it like this as well. Everybody has a role to play. So if your role is to act like, once again, the good hat or the white hat, and your job is to be the black hat or the bad hat, then you play the role that you're given. And so once again, you're elected, You get in there, you're ensconced, you're making a name for yourself within the party, and once again, you've had previous information before you got elected, and then you have to again decide what role you want to become, what role you're going to play. So they're all lock in step. But I agree with you, Francisco. It has to be a different mindset to go forward because the old way is just not working anymore. And people are sick and tired of being sick and tired. And they'll call you on it. So it's not like back in the day where you didn't have electronic media, you didn't have the internet. I mean, it's all always ongoing. So it's not like they don't know, they know. And they also know for the fact that if we don't do our job, I may not be reelected. Just from my own personal standpoint. So there's a lot of working parts going on here, but at the same time, there has to be a change. Change is inevitable, but you got to do something else different because what you did before, the shit ain't working no more, pretty much at this point. And American people are getting screwed, blued and tattooed in the process. Francisco, mentioned about your topic and your segment. The floor is yours right now.
Okay. So as I mentioned, the Republican Party has essentially been on the wrong side of history for a very, very long time, several decades. They were against Medicare. They are against unions. And by the way, when union membership was at its highest in America is when the economy was the strongest, which is right after World War II, moving on to about 1980. And they were against highways. When General MacArthur came back from the war, he admired the German highway system because it enabled a mechanized army to get across the country quickly and easily. And America didn't have that at the time, and the Republicans were against that. Luckily, the Democrats won out. But if you look at just about every social issue, every economic issue, everything that makes America run best, the Republicans have been against. You know, it's kind of shocking, but when you think about it, look at what they're trying to do now. They're trying to disenfranchise people of color. All right. All of their initiatives are really there to countermand the 1965 Voting Rights Act. They want to overturn Roe v. Wade. So they want to take rights away from women so that they won't have sovereignty over their own bodies. So in a way, it's sort of like an embellishment of the classic Prince song. Tonight, the Republicans want to party like it's 1859. You know, right before the slaves were let loose and set free, and women still didn't have a voice in America. That's what they want to turn the clock back to. So they're not satisfied with the current state of reality right now, which is, you know, so much freedom, so many rights, so much ability for people to move the way they need to move in America, as flawed as it is. And I've been very critical of America on this show, but they are not happy with the way things are. So all of their efforts are geared toward rolling the clock back to 1859, where Black and brown people were property and women were just there to be, you know, vessels for children and to do as they were told. And it's just shocking that this is happening. Like, you know, forward progress in that world just stopped completely. And reality is no longer reality. It's just a concept. I mean, look at the last 6 months alone, and I'll end on this point. We all saw with our own eyes what happened on January 6, 2021. There was an attack on America's capital. And for the last 6 months, these psychotic, sociopathic, degenerate liars are looking at us and saying, that's not what happened. It was just regular tourism. It was just a regular visit. There were no guns. There was no violence. Everybody was peaceful. This is literally what they're telling us. So they're basically saying, yeah, we're not going to accept the version of reality that is reality. We're going to create our own reality and move forward with that. So that's my idea for tonight.
Is it about losing control? Because again, and you talk, which is dumb as hell, but it's a mindset to roll back the times, to have slavery, to have everybody go to Mazda for information and for to even wipe your ass with. it is a sad part that we're seeing this. And again, to even put that out there today is beyond insanity.
Right. And these people are, for all intents and purposes, demonstrating behavior of insane people. There is a baseline reality. I understand that there's perception. I understand that there's perspective. I've studied psychology for over 40 years, so I understand how information is changed when it meets perception, right? So, for instance, if you have 10 people who witness a car accident, very often they can't even agree on what colors the car were, even though there's a definite color to each car, that we can demonstrate by looking at the car. When people recall the incident, they get that wrong very often. They get the direction that they were driving very often wrong. They get a lot of things wrong. Eyewitness testimony is notoriously unreliable, right? Because of how reality gets filtered through personal beliefs and experiences, right? And there's a whole host of other factors. How tired are you? How drunk are you? All that kind of stuff. But right now, these are otherwise and presumably sober adults that have a job to do in America, which is make laws and govern. And what they've decided to do instead is just become a perpetual lie machine. And they're looking at us and saying, hey, do not believe your lying eyes. What you think you saw on January 6th is not what you saw. I'm going to tell you what you saw. And here's the sad part, because the question becomes, what's worse, the liar or the person who believes the lie, right? I understand the agenda of a lawmaker. As you said, these people rely on our votes to keep their jobs, okay? So I understand their behavior to a certain extent. I mean, imagine if every year, when you guys were working, every year, your coworkers were going to vote on whether you kept your job or not, right? Don't you think that throughout the year, your behavior would be informed by the knowledge that you're going to be voted on by your peers and coworkers? Of course it would. You would pander. You would try to be friendlier to people. You might even tell a couple lies, right? You might even make some promises that you don't intend to keep because you want that vote so that you can keep your job. So I understand that behavior. And then when you add to the fact that these people make a tremendous amount of money. You alluded to that earlier, Chris. Lobbying is just legalized bribery, right? So you have all these companies saying, hey, man, we want to ensure that when you vote our way, which means that if you're a large company, we want to make sure we're not paying taxes. We want to make sure that we're not really controlling how much pollution we put in to the air and to the water. We want to make sure that we don't have to treat our workers as well as we really ought to. We want to make sure that we pretend that $7.25 an hour is something that people can live on. And by the way, that they hijacked the conversation at $15 an hour. Again, if you look at the expenses in America, $15 an hour doesn't mean anything. That's drowning in 20 feet of water and moving up to 10 feet of water to drown. That's what $15 an hour is.
Yes.
So, you've just got this situation where people who are theoretically there to govern over our lives are changed by the fact that they know that we have to vote for them in order for them to keep their job, and by the amount of money that businesses pour into them. These two things make governance a different thing than it's supposed to be. And that's what we're really dealing with overall.
Yeah, totally true. Like you said, the $15 an hour issue, they stirred up all of the small businesses, got them all riled up. You got to give up $15 an hour to a worker. That's less money in your pocket that you get to keep because now you got to pay the people that help you make money
Right, which
more
is
money.
another big lie, by the way, right?
Yeah.
Because if you look at any time that America had a strong economy, like take the time from World War II to 1980 when Reagan came in and dismantled the New Deal, um, that was the best economic time period in America's entire history. Okay. And what was true? Salaries kept up with inflation. The gap between the janitor and the CEO was only about a factor of 12. Now it's a factor of 400. Education costs, all these things kept in line with inflation. This is no longer true. If minimum wage had kept up with inflation, it would be $32 an hour now. And if that sounds like a lot of money, it really isn't. It's what, 1,200 and change per week. That's not a huge amount of money.
That's not even scratching the surface.
I mean, it's 60,000, you $65,000 a year. I mean, that's a decent living, but that's all it is. And it also depends on where you live. In the cities, forget about it. In Manhattan, if you make under $200,000 a year, you can't afford most of what Manhattan has to offer. Okay. So there's just certain realities. And again, the function of the right has been to lie perpetually to the American people so that they obscure the truth and people don't understand what's really going on. They've done it very effectively, but unfortunately, that's why we're in the situation that we're in, is because the average citizen is not informed enough to pressure their legislator into doing the right thing.
Yeah. Comment that I made almost a month ago now about the people not wanting to go back to work, which is another lie. Business owners aren't having a problem with finding people to work. They are finding trouble finding people to work for low wages.
Mhm.
There's a difference. Raise the pay,
Right.
and the outcome will change. It really is very simple. That was a
Right.
comment that we had made,
Yeah.
about a month or so ago when we were talking about how they're spinning this move, about, oh, we're giving them too much money on unemployment. Well,
It's
you're not.
ridiculous. What this proves is that the American economy is based on exploiting workers. Okay, that's a fact. Okay, it is completely based on exploiting workers. It's just a very well dressed plantation. That's all this is about. Get as much out of these people as you can, put them in debt their whole life, put them on the wheel that they have to spin on their whole life, and at the end of it, when they die, they still owe money, and their families now is saddled with that debt. That's what America really is. Okay, and people have to stop the nonsense. They have to stop perpetuating the propaganda and see what America really is. We've been told repeatedly by so many people, so many comedians, so many films, so many authors. We've been told, hey, this is what's really going on in America, but the propaganda machine from the top down is very powerful. You start pledging allegiance when you're 5 years old, right? And it starts there and it keeps going. That's why people like, oh, I'm proud to be an American. Okay, what are you proud of? Oh, I'm proud of the flag. I'm proud of freedom. None of these things mean anything. Here's an interesting statistic, right? America is the land of the free, right? That's what people are proud of. Oh, we have freedom here. Two things on that. Number one, 80 other countries have freedom and democracy. Yawn, big deal. That's the standard in developed countries. Number two, America has the most incarcerated people per capita than any other country on earth. And literally, that means that it is the least free country. But propaganda is powerful. So people go, oh, freedom. I pledge allegiance to the flag, a piece of cloth that's decorated with different colors that every friggin' country has. Yawn. But that's what we got going on, man.
Very true. Very true. I saw a YouTube video just in the last week or so, and they were talking about. I'm going to give you the title of this video. Give me a second here. I'm going to pull it up for you. and they were talking about that very same topic and that very same point. It was a PBS television show that I ran across that discussed this, and I tell you, I encourage everybody to go take a look at it. But they were talking about how America. Let me give you the title. Give me 1 second. I'm looking it up as we're speaking here. That's not the one I'm looking for. Thank God for having two screens. I'm able to go in here and try and find it right quick.
I'm sure this is very
Yeah,
entertaining for our viewers.
yeah, yes. The racist origin of U.S. law. That's one you need to go look at on YouTube. It was a
I already
PBS.
know.
Yeah.
I've looked at that. I actually cited that recently on this show.
Okay, so you know which one I'm talking about. Yeah.
No, I haven't seen the episode, but I cited the various racist laws that exist from FHA to the GI Bill to redlining to all these different practices that America has engaged in. Jim Crow, the 13th Amendment, go on and on and on.
Exactly.
It's one big plantation, folks.
Right. They still exist. Exactly. Yeah. But this was a PBS special. It's on YouTube. You'll be able to go look it up. And very interesting. Maybe we'll get a chance to play it one day. Over here's a 13-minute video. It's not a long episode, but it's very informative. And then we can share that with the viewers as well.
Cool beans. Thank you. As a matter of fact, hey, Ron, you do me a favor. Put that into the comment section, the name of that, so everybody else can get a chance to check it out as well. Thank you, sir. So, Michael C. Bender, he is a Wall Street Journal White House reporter, has recently penned the book, Frankly, We Did Win This Election, the inside story on how Trump lost, and loss is underscored. The new book recounts chaos of Trump's last days. Trump's inner circle thought he was dangerous, but did not stand up to him. Bender also says the following about Trump. Trump's priority from day one at the White House was to always win re-election. Everything was secondary to that. Also go into detail about the book goes into the inside of the Trump White House 2020 campaign and a comeback plan. Trump's political dominance continues. In a recent CPAC 2021 straw poll of presidential candidates with Trump at 70, that's 70%, alongside Ron DeSantis with a trailing 21%. Bender at the time interviewed Trump and 150 plus White House and campaign staff and advisors for the book. Bender also wrote about a 2018 conversation in which Trump's then Chief of Staff John Kelly briefed him on the history of the First World War and its connections to the World War II. Bender says that Trump replied, "Well, Hitler did a lot of good things." A stunned Kelly told the president, "You cannot ever say anything supportive of Adolf Hitler. You just can't." Kelly stepped down as White House Chief of Staff officially January 2nd, 2019, because him and Trump were no longer on speaking terms. And you go on with these type of rhetoric that we heard from 45. We've heard over the years about how he dropped the ball on the pandemic, how he was able to just be oblivious to everything around him. And every time you try to tell him, if you were an advisor, and once again, that was a revolving door of various people coming in and out of the White House, he never listened. So with what's going on currently with voters' rights and voter suppression, can we see a possible Trump victory in 2024?
Well, here's what I think. It's one of those things where a lot of tumblers have to fall into place perfectly in order to pull this off. And I don't see that happening. Not that it's impossible, but I don't think it's likely. I think the best thing that could happen to America is for Dump to run again. Presuming he's not in jail by then, which I hope is the case, it would be great for him to run again. The guy was trounced in the last election. Okay, I mean, let's remember that he never won the popular vote the first time around or the second time around. This anti-democracy electoral college is what got him elected the first time. The second time, it was a routing. It was a spectacular routing. You know, I'd like to remind people that Biden got 15 million more votes than Hillary Clinton did, and 7 million more than Dump. It was a phenomenal performance. And by the way, all of the voter suppression tactics were in full effect then as well. It's not like this stuff is new. It's not like they're going to be doing stuff they've never done before. It's just an extension of what they've been doing. So bring it on. If it ain't Dump, put some other stuffed shirt in there. Maybe they'll, you know, resurrect the ghost of Alex Trebek or something like that. I don't know what they're going to do, but it doesn't matter. Their ideas are not the ideas of Americans. The vote was not even close. America spoke and said, we renounce this nonsense. We're done with it. It was a bad idea to begin with. That's why, you know, Hillary Clinton got 2.9 million more votes than Dump did. You know, and what does that say about America, that you can get 2.9 million more votes than someone and still lose? Okay, that's a weird system, if you ask me.
Very weird, very strange.
You know, let's just go to one vote. You know, one man, one vote, one person, one vote. Let's just be done with it. Let's be a real democracy. Wouldn't that be spectacular? Right. But yeah, you know, let them do whatever they're going to do. Everything that they've done and everything that they're doing has demonstrated to America that they don't deserve to be in power. And, you know, just like any organism goes into a death rattle in its dying moments, what we're seeing is the Republican Party death rattle. They are desperate to stay alive. They're doing anything they can, and it's ugly, and it has nothing to do with democracy or governance or lawmaking. It's just about holding on to power desperately. And America's watching, hopefully. I mean, look, there's always going to be this swath of people who are too dumb. You know, we don't ban stupid people from procreating. So, you know, what's the difference between now and 1918? You know, there's more dumb people. That's what it is. There were 2 billion people on the planet in 1918 when the pandemic hit, and now there's 8 billion, close to 8 billion. And unfortunately, that means more dumb people. So there's a lot of people that are around that are going to buy the propaganda. They're going to believe the lies. They're going to be scared about their guns and their Bible and and 2 boys kissing. But the majority of Americans see through it. And so let them do all the machinations they want. Let them bring on Dump. Let them bring on whoever. It doesn't matter. I think we've seen the end of the Republican reign for a while.
Well, I echo what he said. If he's in jail, I'm hoping that we have this eclipse, where the sun and the moon are in perfect alignment, and everything points to him. Yeah, he did it. It's time to take him out of his Adolf Hitler, Julius Caesar complex that he has about, I rule the world, and just take him out of the playing field, because so many people have rallied behind him that they need to see something of that magnitude to take him out of this complex that he's in. I saw some of the books that came out of Washington, D.C. on this week when the general was saying that, he was looking at this guy, basically trying to stage a coup. you know. And then number 45 came back talking about, well, if I was gonna do a coup, I wouldn't do it with you. I'm like, what? you know, yeah, I'm like crazy, you know. So it ran across his mind. That's what I got out of that. But there were a lot of statements that came out in books this week. Out of they've been talking about it through the news cycles about some of the comments and how they observed him and what he was doing and what he was trying to convince people of during the process of wanting to stay in office. And I just, you know, I would not like to see another term of him at all. I would not.
Well, look, there's a stark contrast between Trump's administration and Biden's administration. You know, why has Biden been so effective in the first 100+ days of his administration? Could it be that he has government experience and hired people with government experience? You know, in contrast to a reality game show host with no governmental experience. I mean, did anyone expect anything more to come out of the Trump administration than we got? You know, this is not, you know, only in America can someone completely unqualified with a disastrous personal history, with a disastrous business history, with a disastrous legal history, be even considered for such an important job. And given the nuclear codes, you know, this isn't a joke. This dude had the nuclear codes. All right. But now we're seeing, again, with all its flaws, we're seeing how America is supposed to run. People with experience who earned the position, who hired other people with experience, who earned the position. And now things are moving forward. Look at, you know, America is finally leading in something, which is vaccinations. Okay, something good. You know, most of the things that America's number one are horrible categories, but we're, you know, the rollout of the vaccination. Oh my God, I can't even talk. The rollout of the vaccine was so effective because you had adults running shit. Okay, as opposed to some clown and his gang of thieves that all they were interested in was raiding the treasury, which they did successfully, but that didn't help America in any way.
You are so right.
I mean, when we got the news that Joseph R. Biden Jr. was going to become president-elect, we remember the videos from coast to coast of people with jubilation dancing in the street. That was the message. You know me in movie quotes. I mean, going back to the Wiz theme, the Wiz they're talking about, not about the Wiz, you know, the black version, you know, from Motown. So at the end, you know, she's down the toilet, you know, the Wicked Witch of the West, and all of a sudden they come out of their skin and they dance around "Can You Feel a Brand New Day?" And that started the theme. That felt like watching that from coast to coast. People just, again, feeling like this tremendous bullshit was off their shoulders. They felt alive again. They felt America was alive again, that we can move forward. And I'm with you, Francisco. Bring it. I don't give a fuck. Bring him. He could have a look-alike. It don't matter. As a matter of fact, here's the reason why I want him to run. So let's go back to the Tulsa, Oklahoma get-together that he had. A lot of people didn't show up. His numbers were down. Mm-hmm. And when you see him coming off of Air Force One, was one of the most brilliant pictures I've ever seen in my life. His orange makeup was running down his face. He was dejected. He didn't have his tie on. He had his Trump cap in his hand, clutched it. That's the Donald Trump that we want to destroy. So if we ever forget, we should have that image in our minds. We don't need you anymore. You got in by technicality and bullshit in the first place. You never was for us. You never was for anybody but your damn self. And the people around you were cowards because they never challenged you. And like we said before, when you bring in adults into an adult situation, this is what happens where we are now in our lives. If everybody is like, I don't know, just stupid, at least before earlier, just the planet got more stupider because procreation happened. You don't know what 2 + 2 is. When that happens, it just makes for more confusion. It's not a progression, it's a digression. And so now we're looking at a progression from whence we've come from the 45 administration. And the fact that he still wants to be relevant, remain relevant. He still wants to get himself out there and do these CPAC meetings and these, appearances everywhere else because he's making a comeback. Okay, great. It's fantastic because I want him to be dejected again, just like he was last election, and even go back to Tulsa, Oklahoma situation where nobody showed up for him, quote unquote. That's what I want. And it'll be a sight to see. I guess about it because Ron leaned back. I guess that's the end of the show.
Now, man, I'm enjoying the orange paint rolling down his face roots that you just said.
Dude,
that was like, yeah, I was like, man, orange paint rolling down his face, had cap in his hand, no tie on,
Right.
Yeah, in Oklahoma, couldn't happen to a nicer guy. I love it.
That was great.
Yeah,
that was a good image.
Yeah. I was enjoying that, man. I'm like, yeah, let him show up. I hope he looked like that when they carted him off to jail. Orange paint rolling down his face.
That's gonna be a good day.
He can have a mega hat in his hand.
Yeah. And the orange go from his face to his orange jumper. So that'll be fantastic.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a great day.
And then he can run into all of his buddies that got arrested that were just visiting at the Capitol on the 6th, taking a tour, Yeah, absolutely, taking the tour and wound up in the same jail he's in, okay?
Man, I'm telling you, it's more than a notion. Man, this has been great. Before we get out of here, any closing last comments?
I didn't get a chance to mention last week. I was kind of, distressed over the numbers that we had in the killing in Chicago over the last couple of weeks. It's been tremendously crazy, the amount of killing that's been going on. And it didn't get any better. Last week we had 106 shot, 16 dead last weekend, and I didn't get the numbers for this week, but it was just as many, and if anybody is from the Chicagoland area and they have any influence over anybody with a gun, please put the guns up. Young babies are getting killed. Young babies are getting shot, that don't have anything to do with anything of violence. These are babies, playing, riding in cars with their parents, and getting killed unnecessarily. So, I just wanted to encourage, if anybody that follows anything that I do or what we do, please tell that person to put the guns down. People are dying unnecessarily in Chicago on the streets and across the country, not just in Chicago, but across the country. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I didn't get a chance to mention that on last week, but I definitely wanted to get a chance to mention that on this week.
Oh, okay. Do you have any parting words, Francisco?
Oh, not that was pretty heavy. I guess I'll go back to my favorite quote because what Ron just put forth is a vision, a goal, right? And whenever there's a goal, there has to be a methodology for attaining that goal. And my favorite quote is about that. Whatever you vividly imagine, ardently desire, sincerely believe, and enthusiastically act upon must inevitably come to pass.
Amen. Thank you for that.
That's right. And for me, imparting what Dr. Ron just mentioned as well, in news or even in certain circles of conversation, the one word that I don't hear enough of is the word love. You don't hear it. Sometimes you don't see it, and sometimes you know what the hell it is. But it does exist. And for people who do embrace that, just because you love does not mean you're weak. It means that you are an embodiment of what you care and embrace of. So with all that's going on in the world, there's also people out there who are not doing that. There's also people out there who are very positive minded, who have a great aura and a great spirit. And I know it sounds like, fairy tale stuff, but I bear witness. It does exist. It just depends on where you find it.
Yeah, and you know what? I do need to add a final thought. You just reminded me of something,
Sure.
Chris. So thank you for what you just said. The fact of the matter is that the vast majority of people in the world are not running around killing each other and raping each other and beating each other. It's the smallest segment of society. It just draws the most attention.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like everything in your world can be perfect, but if you stub your toe, that's going to get your attention because it's painful. And it won't matter what else is going on in the world in that moment. So, obviously you can't dismiss the reality of the horrible things that happen in the world and man's inhumanity to man. But if we're going to fully embrace reality, I think it's only fair and balanced to recognize the fact that the vast majority of people are just going around doing what they need to do to survive, to get their daily bread, to take care of their family, and to love each other. And that's why, by the way, I don't watch news. As much as I know this is a news program, I actually don't watch news almost at all. The only thing I get is snippets on Facebook, but I don't expose myself to news because it's all about the negativity of the world. And I know that is not a fair representation of what's actually happening in the world.
Amen.
Absolutely. Yeah. Before we get out of here, I want a special shout out to everybody that's been checking us in the comment room and checking us out. Dr. Katrina, for example, Jed, and everybody else. Also, special shout out to our brother in broadcasting, R. Michael Douglas. He's a great brother. In fact, he was on with us a few months ago. We were talking about voter suppression, and he lives in Georgia, so he had chimed in through the link. And I also got a chance to interview him yesterday on my other program. And I'm glad that he's here. So, R. Michael, thanks for being here as well, all that you do. So we're about to get out of here. Please continue to take care of yourselves and take care of people around you. Here comes the sweatshirt that he has on and the smile and the peace sign that Dr. Ron's going to bring up. So, of course, it's Street News now. Catch us every Thursday. These plugs are very shameless. We got that already. 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, at 6 p.m. on the West Coast. Make sure you go to our YouTube channel, Street News Now, SNN. Make sure you subscribe, like, and share. Also catch us on Facebook Live, Twitter, and Twitch. For Dr. Ron Ford, for Francisco, a.k.a. Chocolate Yaddah, for our fearless leader, Lee Michaels, and of course, Professor Reggie Miles, for all of us, take care and continue to be peaceful.
Amen.